I'm wondering if you can explain a quote that I read an article that was written about you. And in the article, it quotes you as saying, "We are products of our decisions, not our circumstances." And
Yeah.
that quote jumped off of the page of the article for me because it really aligns with, as I've tried to build this story around creating the flip side of adversity, one decision, one action at a time. But I'd love to hear from you. When you say that quote, how does that connect with your own life story?
Um, I would say that our circumstances are like the factory. It's like setting up a company. Your circumstances are what your plans were,
Hmm.
or what your anticipations were. It's what you had, the assets you had at the beginning. You don't know whether the company is going to become a multi-billion dollar company, right?
Right.
The multi-million dollar stage status comes from the decisions you make and not from how you started.
Yes.
Because you can start with all the assets and all the intellectual property and everything and still turn a profit of zero and go bankrupt.
Yeah.
But the decisions you do within knowing what you have, I think where you start and what you have is very important
Hmm.
because it allows you to make your decisions within the right context. So it's not okay to ignore your circumstances. You're better off carrying your circumstances and making your decisions based off of what you're holding. And if
Hmm.
you need to find something else, figure out how you're going to barter trade the
Yes.
things you don't need for
Yes.
the things you do in order to achieve that. And that decision making in that, in that barter trades operation is what makes that difference. It's what removes the problem.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people try to erase problems,
Yes.
but actually, you're better off replacing them. I mean,
Mhm.
erasing would imply that what you had no relevance to you whatsoever.
Wow.
But yeah, but swapping implies that you value what you have. So when you're swapping, you're looking for an alternative, but you see some value in what you have that might be useful for whoever you're swapping with or whatever you're swapping with. So, for example, my adversity could be the beginning of someone else's progress, but they needed to experience what I experienced in order to get there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times when we're looking for advice, really we resonate with people that have struggled in the same way. And that even having conversations with other people is the barter trade
Right.
if you're prepared to learn from it.
Right.
you
Right.
know, and I think again, I'm saying all these things with hindsight, but now I'm putting to words what I was discovering over time. And I think in all honesty, if I understood this from the very beginning, I think I would have gotten to where I got to a lot quicker, right? And that's why we have these conversations so other people can hear this and
Yes.
not have to spend so much time approaching things in the wrong way.
Right. But just how you explained that moment is the same way you explained it when I was in Accra. And there's such a powerful um, the decision making, instead of coming from a victim place and trying to ignore or erase or deny the circumstances, your experiences, you actually can say, "This is what I have." And there's a powerful moment when you then decide, "I'm going to exchange this because either it's no longer serving me, it did what it was supposed to do in the moment, and now I'm exchanging it for my next step." There's so much power in that, which literally aligns with this concept that I've been trying to communicate, is that you can create a flip. Just because what has happened does not mean that that's going to define everything that's possible for you. When you think about pivotal moments, like pivotal moments where you felt like you shifted from the survival place to actually growing and thriving. Can you give us a snapshot of one of those moments?
The day my son was born, that was, I
Don't get
think,
me all warm. Yes.
yeah, yeah. When the day I held my son was the day I was prepared to make decisions. I think I think they got to a point where I was aware of decisions I was meant to make. I think a lot of the times we find ways and reasons to justify not making a decision or taking long to make a decision or choosing the wrong path
Mm-hmm.
altogether. And when I held him in my arms, it was no longer the repercussions were
Yes.
no longer only mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I needed that wake up call because I think when you feel like the repercussions only rely on you, you tend to be very nonchalant about your decision making, especially when you have enough distractions in your life going on. So,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we call distractions busy, but they're distractions.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And I think for me, I was in survival mode, like you said, for a long time. And so when you're in survival mode, you become very selfish in your decision making. You
Mm-hmm.
don't really tend to think about anyone else because you are able to justify the fact that no one was there for you
Yeah.
in this whole duration anyway.
Yeah.
So why should I? And I think you will find it very difficult to get anywhere alone. And I think that that's something that people really need to understand that, you can't get any, you can only go so far on your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that wake up call for me was seeing him. Mind you, prior to that, I have dropped out of university, med school, and then another course before that. I am going from job to job, room to room, house to house, just getting by. I'll be fine. And now this boy who's helpless has no will rely on me completely. I'm holding this newborn baby, and I'm thinking to myself, no, what is? Immediately you start thinking legacy,
That's the
and I
word
think
I
and
was
I
waiting
think
for.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you start thinking legacy, and I think for me it's hard to you can either choose to ignore that thought of legacy in your head,
Mm-hmm.
which is easy to do so if you've not had much of an experience in a father figure thinking that way. As a man, I'm going to speak
Yeah.
from a man's perspective because that's what I am, right? And I think you don't prioritize the things you've never experienced, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I was very fortunate enough, and I always tell friends that actually I'm in a very small percentile of people that has had that
Mm-hmm.
as a man.
Yeah.
So, and not only as a father who's there, but a father who's actively present and trying to focus on legacy. It was very clear my dad was very legacy focused.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was impossible to ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because of that, I made decisions immediately. I enrolled in university. All of a sudden when I'm dilly-dallying between the courses I want to do, I immediately knew exactly what I wanted to do. My why had been answered. And, I think when your why is answered, you start to make decisions that gear towards that angle. And a big decision that comes with the why is when you are prepared to learn about yourself.